Hey Rebuilders, welcome to session 2. I'm glad to see you guys got back on and you didn't bail after the first one after I asked you to take a selfie. So before we get started, just like last time, I'm going to start with my good old disclaimer. In this video and in all videos, I make no claims. I do not claim that any product, strategy, or plan will treat, prevent, or cure any diseases or illnesses. None of the products that I discuss have been approved by the FDA. It is advised that you seek the advice of your medical doctor before changing any current health strategy or taking any new supplements. Okay, so now that that is out of the way, we can get working on session number 2. Okay, so today I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about the overall strategy or the overall game plan. Before we get into like the nitty-gritty of different details and stuff, we need to take a step back and look at the actual big picture of the game plan. If you think about the analogy, again, of rebuilding, like rebuilding a house or rebuilding your temple, when you set out to rebuild, you have to first determine how you're going to do it. What I mean by that, you have to ask yourself, am I going to get a general contractor and have that person hired out and get the plumber and the drywaller, et cetera, or am I going to bypass the middleman and just do it myself and hire my own people? How is the work going to get done? What's the strategy? What kind of help are you going to use? Which workers are basically going to fuel that renovation project? When it comes to weight loss and dieting, we have to kind of look at it in the same context. You have to figure out, when you're rebuilding your metabolism or your waistline or your overall health, the thing that is going to fuel this renovation is food, but what kind of food are we going to eat primarily, and what's going to be the strategy? The body has an ability to use 2 different things for fuel, basically. It's kind of like a hybrid car. If you think about a hybrid car, it has the ability to run on gasoline, like a typical car does, but it also has the ability to run on electricity. The body is kind of the same machine. It can run on glucose, which is, sugar that's kind of made from carbohydrates, or it can run on ketones, which comes from fat. Glucose or ketones can be the primary fuel source for the body. These are the 2 basic strategies that I'm going to present in this group, this weight loss group. I typically recommend one of these to people that I'm coaching. Because this is a group thing, normally when I'm doing one-on-ones, we can talk about what best suits you. We can look at the whole scope of the person and kind of make a recommendation, and then we go in one direction. But because this is a group and because there are over 100 people doing it, it's going to be really hard for me to just point everybody in one direction, because the body is so unique and so different, and everybody has different issues. I need to present both to you, and then I can help you decide which one is the best strategy for you, or you can just kind of look at each yourself and say, oh, I definitely want to do this one. So that's kind of the difficulty in doing it in a group setting, but it's not going to hinder us. You feel free to message me, call me, whatever, if you do have questions. But those are basically the 2 strategies that I most often recommend. But you have to choose one of them. A hybrid car, it can't, as far as I know, run on electricity and gas at the same time. You choose one. Same thing, with rebuilding your house, you have to choose whether a contractor is going to do it or you're going to do it. You can't have too many bosses, I guess. The same goes for, your body. You have to choose one of these, because you're not going to have glucose and ketones as your primary fuel source. So you're going to have to pick which one you want to be your primary. Both of these strategies can rebuild the temple of the body successfully. Both can burn fat, help you slim down. Both, can dramatically rebuild your metabolism and your gut health. Both of them have a lot of benefits, but they are drastically different approaches. So I'm going to kind of go over them today. Please feel free to take notes as I go, because this is going to be a lot of information and you might want to refer back to it. So first, let's look at the glucose strategy. This is the typical diet that everybody normally tends to think of. As I said, the body runs on glucose, which is made from carbohydrates, and they uses that for fuel. This is how most people operate. In this strategy, though, you're going to eat a balanced diet, with a lowered caloric intake, but it's going to include healthy carbs, not simple carbs. I'm going to try and steer you away from those. We're going to healthy, complex carbs, protein, very, very important, and fat, healthy fat, not yucky fat, not hydrogenated fat. We're going to go over all this, but healthy fat. Since the body is running on sugar, on glucose, the goal here with this strategy is going to be to regulate your blood sugar levels, balance them out, so that there's no spikes and falls, because when you get the spikes and falls, that's when it's a major contributor to weight gain. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I don't have blood sugar problems. That's for people with diabetes. There's far more people who have blood sugar issues that have not been diagnosed with diabetes. Diabetes is one blood sugar issue. There's erratic blood sugars that are not diabetes that do wreak havoc on the body. We're going to talk about this more in depth, but don't just assume I'm not a blood sugar person. Listen to everything, weigh it all out, and think about it. Now, doing this strategy, it does not mean that you can eat whatever carbs you want. Like I said, it's going to be balanced. I'll talk more about this in future videos, but it's going to be balanced blood sugar. That's the goal. Certain types of carbs wreak havoc on blood sugar, so we're going to talk about staying away from those. You're going to really need to seriously limit or cut out simple carbs and sugary foods, like plain white bread and sweets. And you're going to need to introduce more lean proteins and healthy fats, but not too many fats, because fat is high in calories. And so we're going to kind of we're going to look at numbers. But a typical diet, for the glucose strategy might be, say, egg whites and spinach for breakfast with a handful of blueberries, or then a tuna salad wrap with avocado for lunch, and then dinner, maybe chicken with quinoa and a casserole or something. That would be like a typical glucose strategy meal plan. With this diet, you have a balanced plate at every meal. And again, we're going to talk more about this, but you want to have all three of those macros every time you sit down to eat: carbs, protein, fat. You use glucose as fuel, but you balance the blood sugars, and it's going to have a domino effect in the body. With this strategy, I do highly recommend Plexus Slim, because what it does is help regulate blood sugars. The chromium especially, there's several ingredients where it really helps your body keep that even keel and not do the ups and downs. Again, I'm going to talk more about that later. Today, I'm just presenting these strategies. Okay, the second strategy is, like I mentioned, getting the body to use ketones, getting the body to use fat for fuel. You basically limit your carb intake to, say, maybe 25 to 50 grams of carbs a day. And that's going to depend on your exercise level, how many you're eating. And I start people out usually at 25, unless they're an athlete or something. But it's no sugar whatsoever in those carbs. Those carbs are primarily veggie carbs. And certain veggies are higher in carbs, so some of them are off limits, but primarily veggie carbs. But you do have the flexibility for more fat. So here's how it works, okay? So the body will hold on to carbs for a couple days. It'll hold on to that glucose. But after that, you know, when carbohydrates are really scarce and there's not very many left in the body will recognize that there's not very many left, and it will start to convert fat into something called ketones. And it's going to use those as fuel. When the body is operating that way, it's called ketosis. So here's the benefit when you're in ketosis and you're running on fat fuel. As far as weight loss, if the energy needs exceed those fat ketones that you have, the fat that you're getting by fuel. Let me rephrase this. If the energy needs of the body exceed those that you're giving it from fuel, in other words, if you need more fuel from fat than you're putting in your body, with fat, your body is then going to start liquidating fat tissue. So basically, it's going to start burning stored fat. So it's basically, you know, you think about your body as you give it fuel through food. If you don't give it enough fuel when you're in a state of ketosis, it's going to burn the stored fat. It's going to start burning belly fat, you know, fat around your hips. It's going to burn whatever fat you have. You literally become a fat burning machine at that point. And because, you know, you're not running on glucose, then you don't have the spikes and falls in glucose. You have balanced blood sugar as well. So it does kind of have many benefits. So a typical diet for the keto strategy, the fat burning strategy, might look like this. You might have bacon and eggs for breakfast. Then a salad with like lean meat, maybe cheese for lunch. And then for dinner would be maybe chicken with cauliflower rice for dinner. So basically, the only carbs that you would have that day would be from the veggies, and you're not having the fruit, you're not having the sugar. I also do suggest people consider Slim for this too, even though it's not a glucose strategy. The Plexus Slim really is good for the liver, which is very crucial in a high-fat diet. And it has ingredients in it that really make the body more efficient at burning fat, so that you're not burning stored muscle. It does a couple different things for both strategies. So I do advise it for both strategies, but I advise it for different reasons because it does different things in different strategies. So basically, you know, the glucose strategy, you can have fruit, but not on keto strategy. Glucose strategy, you limit carbs. The keto strategy, you almost eliminate them completely except for veggies. You know, on the glucose strategy, you won't be eating fats, you know, like bacon or butter, but on the keto strategy, you will. So you kind of have to weigh which one you think would fit your lifestyle better, or your taste better. But you should also take into consideration, this is not going to be, I'm going to provide you with alternatives. Okay, my philosophy when I am doing this is supposed to be a lifestyle change, and it's supposed to help you, yes, rebuild and to lose weight, but it's got to be something that you can continue with. So I never say, okay, just eliminate all this. The strategy is to replace, not erase. That's very important. Replace, not erase. Because there's certain things you like. You don't want to give them up forever. I get that. So it's going to be, you know, say if you want to go keto, but, you know, I really like muffins. I really like, you know, the pastry, the bakery stuff, pancakes, whatever. You know, we won't erase those from your menu. we will just replace them with keto muffins or keto pancakes. How do you do that? Well, we start using more almond flour and coconut flour, which are high-fat flours, low carb. They don't have carbs. They have a couple carbs, but it fits into the strategy. We're going to use that instead of white flour. If you really love pasta, you can buy a veggie slicer or a spiralizer and make veggie pasta. It's not really pasta, but it's, you send it through the little machine and it spits it out in spaghetti form. So it's basically kind of substituting, I guess you'd say. But, you need to decide which one you want to do. Both strategies, I'm going to encourage you to ditch the sugar. So, but if you love sweets, I get it. Don't worry. We're going to talk about alternatives that are healthy, low sugar, no sugar alternatives. So you're still going to be able to eat things. But my goal is not to erase every good thing from your diet so you live a miserable life and can't eat anything for the remainder of your days. No, my goal is to help you replace your unhealthy favorites with healthier versions that you're going to be able to enjoy. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not going to like that. I'm not going to like something that's made out of coconut flour or a muffin made out of almond flour. I am asking you to trust me when I say your taste buds can change. Things can grow on you. You have to just try them. And there's baby steps to weeding things out and starting things new. Maybe the first time you make them, maybe you start out on a glucose strategy heading towards the keto strategy, and you just start limiting those carbs before you go cold turkey. Maybe you make muffins one day that has half regular flour, but then half almond flour, coconut flour. So you can ease into things if you're afraid that maybe you're not going to be able to do that. But you need to decide which strategy ideally you would want to take, even if you have to baby steps into one of them. The keto option, I would say, is best for people who are looking to lose a lot of weight, or people who knowingly, maybe you're one of those people, I know I have erratic blood sugars. It's definitely good for people with blood sugar problems, or candida. If you have candida lives on sugar. And so when you're trying to combat keto, you need to be on a sugar-free diet. So keto is fantastic for that. It's also good for people who have brain fog, ADD, ADHD, because the brain does amazingly well on ketones. And I will post some studies. There's a lot of studies going on right now that talk about how well the brain does on ketones and on the keto diet. In fact, there's people who are doing the keto diet to manage seizures. They're doing studies now with people with Alzheimer's, and they're able to reverse some symptoms by going keto and using like coconut oil. And so this is a really good brain diet as well. The typical glucose strategy will be best for people who have problems with fat. If you've had your gallbladder removed recently and you have trouble with fat, maybe that keto diet is not for you. Or people who have liver problems, maybe the liver doesn't make enough bile to digest the fat. Or people who have very high cholesterol, maybe you don't want to start on a keto diet eating a lot of fat and meat. I told you yesterday that it's going to be the format: hear it, see it, or hear it, think it, see it, do it. So, we just did the hear it, now think it. I want you to think about which strategy is going to be best for you. Think about your other health problems. Please take those into consideration, because the body is one, or every body system is connected and working together. So those other health issues you have are not isolated from this. I want you to look at those and take those into consideration. If you have candida, if you have hormone issues, whatever, if you need help determining if you have any of these other issues, and you're just not sure, you can get on my website at www.rebuildingyourtemple.com. And on there's a symptom survey, and it basically goes through different symptoms. You might have candida if, and then it lists a bunch of common symptoms that people with candida have. So I encourage you to go through, and it's not just candida, I have a bunch of different health surveys on there to see if you have erratic blood sugars or this or that. So I want you to go on there and kind of think about yourself from these points of view before you decide which strategy is best for you. Like I said, if you have blood sugar problems, if you have candida problems, or you suspect that you do based on those, the symptom survey, you might then want to consider keto. The other thing, if you don't want to, if you're afraid about giving something up, maybe you're saying, well, there's just no way I could possibly give up this, or I could possibly live on that kind of diet. Like I said, we're going to replace, not erase. Okay, so I am going to give you recipes and options that can replace those unhealthy things. But also, when you go through this rebuilding process, as the longer you are in this and working on your health, as things change in your body and become more balanced, your taste buds and your cravings will also change. It is not uncommon for this to happen. I actually had a client once who their regular, thing every night was to have a big giant bowl of ice cream before bed. And this person did not think that they could give that up, or that they could do the keto diet and give up sweets or carbs. But they tried it, they did it. We did a lot of replacements, different like no carb, protein, fat milkshakes, and that sort of thing. And they did it. They gave up the ice cream. Not only did they end up in keto and lost more than 30 pounds in a couple months, now that person, when they taste ketchup, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. This is the person who used to eat, a bowl of ice cream every night before bed. Your taste buds change. Okay, they can change. Your cravings can change. I have another client who, she hated veggies. She just was of every kind. She was constantly craving breads and sweets, wanted nothing to do with veggies. But going through the process now, what she craves iceberg lettuce. Like that's her big craving. And salads are one of her favorite foods. So take that into consideration too. Just because you are in a certain place right now and these are your habits or cravings right now, that doesn't mean that they cannot lessen, and it doesn't mean that they can't be different in the future. Your body, and a lot of times the imbalances in your body are causing those cravings, and so once you bring your body into balance, you're not going to find those addictions to this that you kind of regulate. So don't be afraid of that. It might be hard at first, absolutely, but like I said, I'm going to give you replacements to kind of ease that learning curve. Okay, so the point for that, for Think It, to take the survey, the symptom survey, is to kind of know thyself. This is very important. I really want you to do this. You can't fix something that isn't broken. So I want you to spend some time really thinking about your other issues, really going through the symptom survey and really trying to determine, based on that, which would be best for you. Lastly, the do it. Once you decide on a strategy after you've thought it through, actually, I skipped to see it. I want you to visualize yourself after you think. I want you to visualize yourself eating in a different way, saying, you know what, I could do that. I could have egg whites and spinach for breakfast. I don't need Pop-Tarts. I can have, I want you to actually visualize yourself eating it. And I know it might sound cheesy or whatever, it might sound unimportant, but it's not. Trust me, it is not unimportant. Visualize you in that strategy. Lastly, the do it. I want you to commit to a strategy and then, print it out. I'm going to post some meal plans. I'm going to post some recipes. I want you to print it out and start thinking about about shopping. Start thinking about other ways. Maybe you could, you know, if I post a recipe for cauliflower rice, there's going to be many variations to it. Start thinking about ways that you can make it your own, but still stay in that game plan. Still keep it carb-free or still keep it balanced, whichever strategy you decide. So that's going to come. I'm going to post that later, but that is for this session, session number 2. Those are your do-its. And that wraps up session 2. Again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to message me, give me a call, whatever, and please be active on the site. Comments, likes, whatever. It's going to help things show up in your newsfeed that's from this group, but B, it's going to help you be more involved, and when you're more involved in this, you're going to be more successful in it. So that's all I had for session 2. I look forward to session 3. We're going to get a little bit more involved in the actual eating plan, and we're going to keep moving forward. Also, if anybody does want to try Plexus, they want to try the Slim, you know, talk to the person who added you if they're an ambassador, or you can message me. Get your products ordered so that you can, as we begin to implement these new strategies, you have it on hand. So, okay, that's it, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we will see you next time in session 3.